Those doors, I'm a fool for your love.
I'm very excited for today's chat. We are talking with Sarah Jane. She is a gentle chiropractor. She is a energetic healer. She's a yoga and meditation teacher and a holistic counsellor. So yeah, she's an absolute beautiful woman. I'm going to join her in now. Hey!
Hello!
So Sarah and I were chatting on the phone recently, and we were like, what's something that we could talk about, something that's relevant? Obviously, like, I first saw you speak at a workshop maybe a year or so ago, and your energy just took over the room when you spoke. You have such a beautiful presence and such a positive energy. And I remember me and my best friend were just like, wow, we need to book in and see you. We need to learn from you. We need to hear you talk. You just are a wealth of wisdom and insight. And yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, when you and I were chatting the other day, I guess we were kind of like throwing around ideas and thought, you know, something that's been really prevalent to everyone in 2020 is the topic of change. So change is a big one, and 2020 has thrown it all in our face. So we haven't been able to hide from it or run from it. We've all been, totally bombarded with change. But change can be such an incredibly positive thing, but it can be very daunting, confronting, many of those things.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, change, it's how you interpret it as well. But please go on. We'll go into it a little bit more in depth in a minute.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe we should quickly start with, do you want to quickly tell people a little bit about what you do, a little bit more in depth? And then, we can go off there, and you can maybe even tell us how you found 2020 for you adapting to all this change that's going on in the world, whether it's like globally or personally.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sarah Jane. I'm a chiropractor here in Melbourne, Australia. And like Tess said, I'm a gentle chiropractor, which is just another way of saying that I don't do any manipulation, which is quite strange for my field, as most people who think of chiropractic think of the crack, you know. So to be a practitioner that doesn't utilize that is quite, you know, strange for chiropractic as a whole. But for me, it works really well, and the reason I chose to practice that way is because I work a lot with people who have anxiety, depression, trauma-related stress, whatever it may be, and the gentle approach seems to work better with that. And we're actually retraining the nervous system as a whole to respond to, I guess, scary events like what's going on now. So we actually try to reorganize the body through this gentle way. So I do a lot of events and talks as well where you saw me. And I guess I love doing those because I really do speak honestly. I think in this realm, sometimes you just hear people repeating things that other people have already said. It's kind of this repetition thing. And sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of inauthenticity to it, in the sense of they put on their professional face and say that they do all these things, but then in their own life may not do them. And for me, my purpose in that is it's okay to not be good all the time. You know, I'm very open about my own struggles as a human being, not just a practitioner, and that's okay. You know, I'm not a practitioner because I have it all figured out. I
was listening to an interview recently with a manifestation coach and kind of mindset coach, and she was saying that she's been doing it for years, and she was saying that recently she went through, 3 or 4 months of like serious depression, anxiety, and was like, am I a fraud? Like, this is exactly what I teach and train people to how to not live and how to avoid these things. And she's like, no, this is just part of the human experience. We're always going to experience all of this, no matter where we are, what we've studied, what we preach,
100%. And there's a lot of shame to that in the holistic field. There's a lot of shame if the stuff that we do doesn't work for you. What's wrong with you then? Whereas I'm very open. I'm an integrative practitioner, so I utilize both things. I'm, pro medicine, pro holistic health as well. But I think different people respond to different things, and there's no shame in that. And there's no shame in being a human being. And it's tiring putting on a mask all the time, as I'm sure everyone can relate. It's exhausting. So for me, that's the way I like to practice. And I really love that coach did that, because, also there's a lot of buzzwords like manifestation and all these kind of things, but people don't really know what that means. And so I try to avoid using those specific words, and more so teach people patterns to, I guess, change their mindset as a whole in terms of their interpretation about themselves and the world. Yes, but I won't say use the word manifest, because that might be too, you know, woo-woo for some people. So I try to keep it quite adaptable to anyone who comes in and sees me. And for me, in terms of my own personal experience of 2020, I suppose, well, there's two types of people I'm seeing at the moment, and it's highly functioning people. And so the people who seem to think it's a better change. And then there's the other type that are, I guess, not lower functioning in the sense they're not functioning as well, but just aren't responding as optimally to the change. They're missing, you know, the interaction, or they've been affected in terms of financial change, whatever it might be. So the change hasn't necessarily been positive for them. So with change, that's the most important thing. If the change is positive, or a change that we like or welcome, we tend to respond a lot better than if it's a change that we didn't really want, or one that stresses us. It's like, you know, you had the office in the penthouse at your company, and then they moved you to the janitor's closet downstairs. You know, you're not going to love that change, whereas the janitor closet person is going to love going to the penthouse.
Totally. Totally. And unexpected change can really throw you off course. If it catches you off guard, that can really throw people out. And it can be really hard sometimes to kind of find the tools to be able to know how to deal with that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes you said that it's unexpected, but sometimes we think we know for certain what's coming, but we don't really know anyway. You know, so did anyone predict a world pandemic? No, that's just, you know, a bigger scale of things. But ultimately, it's us wanting to control a situation. We're wanting to feel safe by controlling the situation, and certainty gives us that safety. You know, it's why people might love the card readings that I do. They're looking for some reassurance or some hope for the future, or why, you know, I saw a psychic a couple of months ago because I was like, tell me what's coming, you know. So sometimes, you know, that's when we're kind of not trusting in the present moment as much, and we lose a little bit of faith of that the future, that will be okay anyway.
You said before, like being in the moment, and how do you think, how would you kind of advise, I guess, people to be in the moment and be okay with that change when there is so much change going on that you really actually can't predict what is happening next, or there is that such uncertainty going on? Some people might find it really difficult to just sit in that moment and accept all that.
Yeah, and when, you know, it's like this Buddhist philosophy, they talk a lot about being present, or, you know, mindfulness or meditation. Teachers talk a lot about, you know, it's an Eastern philosophy in terms of being in the moment, and we talk a lot about it now in the Western world too. But what do you do when the moment is really challenging and really hard? Then you have to strip it back even more. So not only in the moment, but maybe focusing just on the breath, you know, or not being so big in your ideas of what coping with something might look like. Maybe just getting up and having a shower was enough for you in these challenging times in order to be in the moment, rather than you just feel great because you're present. I don't believe in that. Sometimes the present moment is really, really hard, you know. Like you heard me speak about when my mum was in a coma. I'm not going to be like, oh, present moment, here I am. You know, it's a challenging present moment. Yeah, I'm so, you know, it wasn't like that for me. And I really changed the way I practiced as well after experiencing some of these things myself, because I was like, hang on, that doesn't work. But what does work is being in the moment enough just to survive that moment and just breathe that moment. So instead of taking it week by week, day by day, you take it second by second in those hard times, and that's being present.
I remember reading something that was kind of a line about Buddhism, how Buddhists look at isolation as a form of retreat, and how we've been kind of looking at isolation as a bad thing in lockdown. And when I read that, I was like, wow, I could really like reevaluate my perception of this time and do what I can to take this isolation to retreat from myself and step away from everything and witness the change and just witness what's going on in my life. But yeah, try and look at it with a different perspective. I found that really fascinating.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it. But I think also, you know, a lot of us have spent much of our life not really being connected to ourselves or connected to those around us or even connected to the homes that we live in. We've been in this rat race for so long that you're distracted a lot of the time. You're either on your social media, on your phone, at work, commuting to and from work, whatever it might be. Like, some people haven't even spent this much time in their house ever. Some people have never spent this much alone time with their partner ever. Some people have never spent this much time alone with themselves. And I think, you know, it really is a time to connect with yourself, get to know yourself a little bit better. But I'm also aware of the fact that sometimes the idea of being stuck with your own thoughts can be quite scary for a lot of people. But like you said, it's also an opportunity to really get to know what it is you're wanting from this life. You know, what have you been saying everything's fine about for a long period of time? What can't you hide from or escape from anymore?
And how have you been dealing with your clients, I guess, who are kind of struggling to adapt to a lot of this change?
Yeah, so everyone's a bit different. So it depends on who's in front of me, how I work with them. I literally am trained in so many different techniques for the purpose that no matter who comes in front of me, they get a unique and specific treatment for them. But a lot of the time, talking like this and trying to change their mindset may not be enough. You know, it's trying to get them from A to Z, and then saying, oh, meditate may be too difficult for them at that point, you know. So what I try to do is just get them in their body. That's when I do the somatic energetic work that's specific for trauma or stressful times, and I get their body's response to calm down, so they're no longer in that survival mode. And when your physiology changes, then that can affect your thoughts that way. So I kind of try to change the body to then change the thoughts with specific people. But then with other people, they respond better with the talk therapy. So I do more of that and then a little bit of the body work. Everyone's a bit different.
Can you tell us what's somatic energy particularly?
So somatic energetic work is, I guess, more of a trauma-based energetic work, but it's still working with the energetic field. But most people who practice somatic practices are either counsellors, psychologists, or chiropractors, or osteopaths, whatever it might be. They're usually already a practitioner that then goes on and wants to do extra work that incorporates body work. Still within an energetic field, yes, but is focused primarily on that fight or flight or survival mode.
Right. Yeah, see, I'm really fascinated at how different emotions and experiences in our life are held in the body. And that's why I think energetic healing is so important, because we kind of know now that our body does latch on to these memories, these feelings, these traumas, and they manifest in different ways in our body. And I guess that's exactly what you deal with.
Yeah, very much so. And I guess the easiest way to describe it for someone who doesn't know much about somatic energetic work is that, for example, animals in the wild, they have a self-regulation system that when they're under threat, they shake it off or whatever they might do. And therefore, it doesn't actually form stress in their body. They actually let it go at that time and move on, you know, literally like the saying, water off a duck's back. Whereas human beings, we're a little bit more complex. Our brains are a little bit more complex. So we actually have the same system within us, but we need sometimes a little help to activate it, because a lot of the time our rational brain and our need for survival, or our reptilian brain, our old brain, will actually take over, and we will start storing things that have happened to us in our systems. And that can show up in different ways. Does it mean that everything physical is from an emotional state? No, it doesn't. But I definitely think it's a contributor in many ways, and especially in illnesses where they can't find a physical cause as such.
So how could one kind of start to maybe delve into figuring out, am I holding something inside me that I'm kind of unaware of? Probably quite a big question.
Well, yes, you are. Everyone is, even I am, you know. And that's okay. But I think, you know, like I discussed previously with you just before, it's having that connection and self-awareness with yourself to kind of understand. A lot of the time when clients come in and see me for their first consult, the first thing I ask them is, okay, so what's going on? They might say back pain, and I'll say, why do you think you're experiencing the back pain? And sometimes they might be like, oh, I don't know, I didn't fall, I didn't really do much, it's just there. And I'll go, okay, how long's it been there for? and they might say 3 months. And my next question usually is, what happened 3 months ago in your life? Oh, nothing much. You know, actually I was made redundant, or I had a big argument with my mum, or, you know, my husband left me, whatever it might be. That's when you know there's kind of an emotional cause as well. So that's the first thing I'd do, is I would ask myself, okay, what's going on in my body symptom wise? And if it's kind of come out of nowhere, or it's something you experience in times of stress, then you know that it's kind of got an emotive connotation to it.
For sure. Yeah. And I know for me personally, like even having this time over the past few months to kind of slow down a bit, and I've really like been tapping into my meditation practices a bit more. And the deeper I get with it, and the more I fall back into that regular habit, the more I feel like I'm more aware of what sensations I'm feeling in my body, and things come up because I'm really slowing down and allowing that time to like witness what's happening in my body. And that's been quite powerful. Like, and it's incredible too how you can realize how much you're holding in certain areas, like my throat, for example, or my stomach, when I feel like I haven't said things, when I haven't expressed things, when I'm stressed or questioning things in my life. I actually, when I really tap in, can pick the areas where it's sitting. And all it takes is a bit of patience, and we'll have that, I think, intuition inside of us, or that awareness. It's just allowing ourselves the time to see it.
100%. Everyone has it. There's not one person on this planet who doesn't have that innate intelligence. We all have it, or we wouldn't be here, you know. So like you said, giving yourself the space to actually connect to that. And it's something that sometimes you have to learn as well. Even though I say it's innate, it's not like if you've never done meditation before, you've never done yoga before, you've never done, I don't know, qigong or whatever it might be before, and then you sit there with yourself and you're like, nothing's coming. It does take a bit of practice and time to get to know your body, and that's why I don't schedule anyone in my practice, for example, in terms of when they come in. What I want them to do is to feel in their own body when they need to come back.
Yeah, right.
Otherwise, they're just relying on me to be like, well, come in 2 weeks, come in a fortnight, come in 3 weeks.
Waiting for 3 weeks,
you know,
to get my checkup, fix myself up again.
Yeah, but that's not going to help. It's not going to help them reconnect to themselves. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I really needed this appointment today. The fact that they know that they needed it shows that they have an awareness that they could feel their body altering, and that the body was asking for some assistance. And so that's something that I pride myself on. And not many practitioners actually do that.
Yeah, I think it's a great way. Yeah, leave it up to the individual, and it kind of encourages them to be a little bit more conscious about where they are in their life at that moment, I guess. So do you have any, do you have your own kind of views on, or your own kind of feeling about what is going on this year? Like, how are you reacting to 2020?
Yeah, well, it's just a year of a lot of change, just like we've spoken about. I think a lot of things, you know, it's kind of like boiling water on a stove. It's going to come over the top eventually, you know, and I think it's one of those things, whether you look at, you know, the racist movements at the moment, that's been an accumulation of, you know, years upon years of injustice that's now reached a boiling point. And in terms of COVID, you know, coronaviruses have existed before, just not to this extent. So a virus in itself, in terms of how quickly it spread and how contagious it was, I don't think in our lifetime we've ever experienced being fearful of catching something so much as we were in regards to this. And I think it's a lesson to learn about slowing down as well. Not in everything I'm trying to, you know, paint a bit of a silver lining here, but it has given us an opportunity to realize that there's some things that we do that we think we have to do that we don't actually have to do. Maybe as a world, if we worked from home more often, the environment wouldn't look the way that it looks. Maybe if we worked home more often, there'd be a lot of stress reduction in the workplace from people having to deal less with other humans in that form. You know, it's a ripple effect. Maybe parents can spend more time with their children. You know, maybe we can actually spend more time outside. You know, I don't know about you, but it changed the way that families and people interacted with nature as well. It affected everyone in so many ways. And so I think even though we're wanting to go back to normal, I think there will be a new normal, and I think people will keep some of the changes that they did find that they did enjoy, like maybe you meditate more, or maybe people we'll cook more, or whatever it is from here. But I do hope that there is a new normal and that we don't just slip back completely to the old ways, because it's just, we're not taking care of the one thing that we need to take care of, which is either ourselves, our loved ones, or the planet as a whole. It's an opportunity. You know, any change that's not chosen by us is going to be challenging. But when you think about it, we don't actually put changes in place ourselves often. We wait till we feel like doing something. And I can promise you, a lot of the time, you will never feel like doing it. I wake up still every day, and I don't want to meditate at all every day still.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
And I do it anyway.
Out of my practices all the time, but, you know, that is life.
And I do too, you know? And you start seeing it when you start dropping off just once. It ends up being 3 weeks before you did it. And then you're like, okay, hang on. Why am I not feeling right? Oh, that's right. My routine that helps me stay sane has slipped away. So, you know, it's just one of those things.
I'm going to read one of the questions here. What is your relaxation method to combat stress and have an optimal dream? That's one of the questions we've got.
I guess for me, it's different for everyone. So I do like meditation and yoga, but some people don't like meditation and yoga. They're usually people who should do yoga and meditation, but that's another story. Find something that brings you that relaxation. Maybe it's being in the garden. Maybe it's cooking. Maybe it's surfing. Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's reading. Whatever it might be, it doesn't have to be the specific meditation thing, but whatever keeps you in that present moment where you're just in that book and you're not thinking about, you know, what you're supposed to be doing with your life, or that person said that to me and I'm really angry at that person. If that keeps you in that moment, then that will relax you as well. Also, there's things like flotation tanks, qigong,
and it's so different
exercise,
finding what's right for you, trialing out different things. Even for me, like trialing different styles of meditation. There's so many different, you know, types you can do, whether it's breath work. I really like using a mantra when I meditate. You know, there's a million apps now.
Me
there's
too.
So many different options. Yeah,
literally the mantra meditation saved me. Before that, I used to find it quite a struggle, but I didn't like the guided ones either sometimes. So I'm like, they're interrupting me.
Exactly.
You know, but when I was given the mantra aham, that really helped me. And then when I noticed my thoughts go off, which they always do, so don't think that meditation means that your thoughts stop. They don't, but you need an anchor to be able to bring it back to that, you know, present moment. And for me, it was the mantra aham, and that helped me a lot. But some people find swimming relaxing. It's really an individual thing. It doesn't have to be meditation, because some people are like, I don't, you know, they're not comfortable with that, and that's okay. There's other ways to relax.
Going for a walk and appreciating the nature around you and the little things and the color of the leaves and all that, it all counts. I think just being present is meditation.
Everyone does need something in their toolkit to help self-soothe themselves without it being a negative coping mechanism, like maybe drinking too much, eating too much of this, or not looking after yourself. Those self-sabotagey coping mechanisms, we want positive ones there if we can, of course.
So do you have any other take-homes that you think would be relevant to people right now?
I think just one more thing is that it's kind of a grieving process right now as well. So it's not just a change. It literally, people are going through a grieving process. They're grieving their life as they knew it, and they're grieving the world as they knew it. It's a big deal. So don't think that it's going to happen overnight, that you're going to feel great about it if you haven't been feeling great. It is a process. Be patient with it. And yeah, it's, for me, it's really a grieving process for most people at the moment who are struggling. And so maybe even looking into a little bit more in terms of resources about grief and what that can mean for people. And especially if you haven't experienced much of that before, it's a good thing. But also, don't just wait for the world to stretch you and change you. Make sure that you start getting comfortable with change within your own life and stretching yourself. Otherwise, the world will stretch you.
Yeah, and I think, like, for me, the word trust has been a really big one for me this year. Is really, like, trust the process. Just trust that life has your back. And when you really, when that really sinks in, everything else just kind of settles. And I feel like you become a bit more capable.
And that doesn't mean, and it doesn't mean that life's going to be perfect and there's going to be no more downs. That's not what faith is. You know, we all jump in our car every day and drive on the road, but you know, how many people are injured in the car accidents? We still do it anyway because we have faith, you know, that most people are going to do the right thing, even though there's drunk drivers or people that text or, you know, looking on their phone. We ultimately have faith that it should be okay, and that's the same with this situation. Have the ultimate faith that no matter what happens, you'll be okay, because I promise you will. And we're all developing so much resilience, which comes from grief at the moment as well. So
change creates strength, resilience, all of that. Yeah, we need it.
It does. Even if you feel broken now, there will be a time that it has helped. There will be a time, and there will be, you know. Have you ever thought about, you know, moments in your past where, you know, you had a breakup or whatever it might be, and you were devastated and you couldn't think that, you know, you'd be okay again, and then now you're like, oh, I can't believe I was even upset about him.
Some
you
of
know,
the biggest,
so I try to think of perspective.
Yeah, some of the biggest, worst kind of moments, changes have ended up to be the best things that could have happened to me. And they can take
Sometimes you're dodging a bullet
years to realize why, you know.
Exactly. And, you know, does that mean that you have to be grateful for everything that happens to you? No, of course not. And don't think that you have to find the gratefulness right now if that's hard for you. What I advise doing is trying to find the meaning in the situation. So what gives your life meaning right now? And that will help you get through it. So that's what I always look for. What's meaningful for me? What can I do right now that's within my control to help me? Okay, wonderful. And then I try to move that way.
Well, I think we've covered a lot there. We've spoken for a good half an hour. Unless there's anything else you want to add, I think that was a really beautiful, wholesome conversation.
Oh, thanks, Tess. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. You know, I really, really do. And your kind words mean a lot. And I am at full capacity, but if anyone has listened to this and has decided that I need to see that lady, please just contact me and mention that you watch this talk, and I'll try my best to create some room for you.
Amazing. Love that. And what's your website? People can check you out on.
Yeah, it's just www.drsarahjanechiro.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for chatting to us, Sarah.
Okay.